why we should explore more and more often the factory patterns in Java. In this video, I explain why and give you a couple samples. When talk about defining factory pattern, the first step is understand the reason. Why should I use it instead of only have a constructor or maybe using an dynamic model? So to illustrate that, I will come here and create my FlightBooking, where we have 5 attributes. So we have the passenger name, okay, the city that is where it's going, so the departure city, the destination city, the seat number, and finally the baggage count. So those are, let's say, initially required for my validation. So I come here, I will define a constructor with all of those. But on this case, I need to include validation. Initially, I can validate if this information is mandatory or not. But eventually, I need to verify if the city name is valid or not, right? Or if my destination departure are the same. So I need to put a couple of validation. Also, imagine a scenario where I have multiple fields that cannot be mandatory or optional. So in this way, I need to create maybe multiple constructors, and that is not nice to maintainability of the code. Furthermore, we might breaking the single of responsibility, right? Because imagine right now that I need to put the requirement as no null. If the departure city and destination is the same, should not. The seat number should be valid. And finally, the baggage count should not be negative. So I start to put in a lot of rules here. I might break the single of responsibility rules. To avoid that, naturally what we can do is exploring several ways, including those 3 patterns that we're gonna cover today. The first one that we're gonna cover today and explore more is also the easiest one, especially if you are using IntelliJ. That is the builder pattern, especially because I came here to the constructor. I can put replace constructor with builder, and that is it. So I can define the prefix, in my case is empty, and then define the full value, define the optional or not, and boom, everything is ready for you. One thing that I usually rename is, let's say, the constructor method, especially because the create flight booking doesn't make sense here, right? I mean, what else are we expecting to have here? So it's a flight booking builder. Naturally, when I say build, it will build or construct a flight booking, not a car. So I usually come here and put just build, and that is fine. So here I can put validations to make sure that those values are required and so on. So I can, every time that someone put, I can define some validation, plus I can put the validation on the builder. For example, all those fields are mandatory. And also my account should not be negative. Plus my destination, departure, if both are equal, something is wrong, right? So we have the legal argument and so on. So I can put multiple validation on this class. I can put, for example, here the mandatory as well, and so on. So I can put a huge amount of validation here without impacting the flight book. And when somebody will construct this flight booking, I will have my valid object with the whole proper information. So I don't need to ask if my passenger name is new or not new, especially because when I will construct, this will be valid. Naturally, I'm using the default package here because I'm assuming who will use this class will use outside the package. Otherwise, what I can do is define as private and moving the FlightBooking builder as in a class. And you can also use an alias here. So you can define public static, FlightBooking builder, and then the builder method, and then keep and work on that. So those have validation. However, it has a validation because those validation will happen only on the runtime. So if I come here, so let's create my app and come here, my app class, public static void main. I have my FlightBooking, and if I do something like this, I will realize when something goes wrong when I run the code. Otherwise, it's impossible to know. So in this case, the passenger name cannot be known. The next pattern that we cover today is the domain-driven design of DDD factory, where I will create our FlightBooking factory. Okay, let's fix that here. FlightBooking factory, where this will have a couple of methods that make sense to my business. So I will align the terminology that I have on my domain or my ubiquitous language inside my factory. So in this case, let's see what they are suggesting here. It is creating flighting book, where it has a couple of validation here, and we can put even more complexity. And you can abstract, for example, create international flight, create domestic flight, or create flight to US, and so on. So you can have multiple, let's say, methods that help, and especially it is aligned with your business. But here we also have a limitation as well. So in this case, I have my parameter with 4 information, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 information actually. And what happens if by mistake I move and fill up the departure city with destination city? Okay, if you are using DDD, this could be a type or value object, but even with that, I have 2 types of city that by mistake I can be missing the parameter order. So I kind of prefer on those 2 solutions go to my builder, because even with the limitation of the runtime, so I just know what happened on runtime, I have clear my intention. So here I have my passenger name, so I know clearly that I'm talking about the passenger name. And on the other hand, when I go to the factory, so factory, so let's fill up here, so create booking flight. So I can do a mistake and change some parameter order. So both are okay, but we need to understand the limitation of each other, especially because everything in code design has, let's say, trade-offs. The last one that we cover today is about a fluent way. So you're gonna guide the user by the intention, and the semantic will have the validation. What do I mean about that? If I'm not following the proper order, the code won't even compile. So what I can do here, I will create my flight booking flow. This one here will have a couple of interface where I will falling. This one here is more semantic. However, as you're gonna see, it has a little bit of more complexity to do the implementation. So I come here, public interface, departures, step city, almost. So I from some place, and then I will create my destination step 2. That is okay. So on this case, I will create my passenger step where I will create here. So public interface where I need to request the name for passenger, where it has the name, and then I can go over and over. So seat step, so I can come here, public interface, seat step. So in the seat, I will define my seat. And finally, my baggage step. So public interface. And finally, I will define with the bags. And finally, I will do my confirmation. So confirmation step. And then I will do my confirmation. So I will confirm. So as you can see, even the Copilot is not helping enough because I want to put closer to the semantic in the context of fly. So I have my from, to, for passenger, seat, with bags, and finally I will confirm that. So as the next step, I will simplify a lot. Naturally, you can put a huge amount of validation, but just to demonstrate and also don't be super complex, I will create our public static method where we have our book flight. And here, what I'm gonna do is I will simplify because I have my destination city, and then I have my flow. And finally, as you can see, what I'm doing is fill up all of those information and finally return that for us. So, and that is it. So, depth city, destination city, passenger name, seat number, and baggage count. So when I come here again, on this time, I have my book flight, and right now I don't have another option. So I must go to from New York, and then I need to have to. So I don't have another option. So my semantic will make mandatory the path. This way, if it's for some reason I don't want to fill up the bags, it won't compile. Okay, so that is it for today. In this video, we explore the 3 patterns of the constructor of object more complex. We go over the builder. That is the easiest way. The IDE can do that for you, where you can put validation in the parameter and also in the construct. However, you're gonna see the result only on runtime. We have the factory where you can align the terminology from the domain or ubiquitous language inside this factory. So I'm creating FlightBooking. I put the whole complexity here so I can have multiple methods that will vary based if the information is optional or not. So this one here, I know if it's gonna compile or not because I can fill up all the mandatory parameters. However, you can do the mistake, even using value object in city here, you can swap those variables. And also it's not, if you go to the clean book, it's not recommended to have a method with multiple parameters. And finally, what we have is the Fluent API where we can navigate by semantic, and this semantic will make more, let's say, mandatory to follow. However, as you can see here, I need to have multiple interface, the implementation, and so on. To simplify, I don't put the validation, but yes, you can put the validation here as well. That is it for today. Hopefully you enjoy. And if you want to enhance your career as software engineer and architect, subscribe in this channel.